From Relay FM, this is Connected. Welcome to episode 390. I am your host, well, actually one of your co-hosts. I'm Federico. And it's my pleasure, first of all, to thank our 4 sponsors this week, Squarespace, Hover, Trade Coffee, and Theragun. You will be able to hear more about them later. But it's also my pleasure to introduce my other co-host from the United States of America, more specifically Memphis, Tennessee, Stephen Hackett.
Hey, Federico.
Hi.
Hey.
I think I'm getting the hang of these intros.
It was good. You hit the from really hard.
Yes, you got to do that, right? You got to do that because Myke does it.
Yeah.
Has been doing it forever. And
I do not do it anymore.
No, you do it.
Jason used to make fun of me all the time.
It's like how Austin dropped the, "Hey guys, this is Austin."
Yeah, but it's not exactly the same. But yeah, he did stop doing that. But I do still say from. I just don't put all the energy on it. You know.
Yeah.
Well, now I do. So
yeah,
I am the
baton
following in your footsteps.
has passed to you.
Yes.
The bassoon.
Yes.
The bassoon has passed to you, Federico.
And if you want to hear more about bassoons and other flute-like instruments, make sure to sign up for Connected Pro, our very serious, very professional, members-only version of Connected that people can get where, Myke?
At getconnectedpro.co.
Yes. Anyway, we're jumping ahead because, Stephen, you're supposed to introduce our third co-host from London, England.
Yes, we are joined by Mr. Myke Hurley. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, I missed y'all last week, but I enjoyed listening to the show. Thought it was a very good episode.
Thank you.
And now I'm back.
Spoke a lot about video games, as we are wont to do when you're not around. Yep.
A friend of mine texted me and was like, "I'm listening Connected, you're not on it, and I can't tell if I accidentally hit play on remaster." It's like, yeah, they do that.
We do that.
It's fine. It's fine. It was a good episode. Let's start with some follow-up. And this week, it is mostly about the studio display, which y'all spoke about last episode.
Well, only a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
We mostly promised that you would, you know, so.
And here I am.
We really built the anticipation for it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so you got to deliver now. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to start with Myke. Do you have a shipping date on yours yet?
Nah, man. It's just sometime between the 30th of March and sometime in April.
Yeah, that's what my Mac Studio says.
Yeah. Oh, really? Because you build to order, right?
I did. Yeah, we will get to that. There's lots of Mac Studio stuff later in the episode. But reviews are out, everything. I caught up, watched them all, read them all. And it's just so interesting to me that this display seems to have some camera issues. I don't think we really have to go over that. It's been covered a lot. But what's interesting to me is that this thing it's not even like basically a computer. It is a computer. Like it is an iPhone 11 inside or an old iPad Air. Like it's got the A13 Bionic, got lots of storage. It's so interesting to me the way they solved this.
I enjoyed a tweet from Joanna Stern. She was like, "I'm looking forward to the first teardown of this where they take the screen off and an iPad just falls out."
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny.
It looks like a computer inside. It's pretty interesting. And even back in the days of like the Thunderbolt display, they were putting more and more into the monitor, right, to handle all of the I/O and all the display stuff. The Pro Display XDR has lots of fanciness in it. It's, big, thick, chunky thing with lots of spinning parts, fans, and, the creepy holes that now I'm touching on either side of my monitor. And this thing just really kind of follows in those footsteps. But it's the first time I think we've seen really Apple basically just picking up like an A-series chip and putting it directly into a display. But it makes sense. This is obviously really good for like embedded systems. It can run forever, nice and stable, plenty of horsepower. We'll see if they can solve the camera thing, and hopefully it's not something that the A13 is just underpowered for. But because it runs iOS, they can just update it. And there were some tweets over the last few days of people looking at the updates, looking at the tech details. It's pretty interesting stuff to me.
It's interesting as well that that's actually got 64 gigabytes of storage, right? Like that just feels so weird. Like to just put storage in a display.
I mean, you gotta cache the pixels.
You gotta cache the pixels. My guess is that the A13 they're using, like that's just the most efficient one they have around, but it seems like a waste. Like I don't know why It's just, it has to come down to economics. I don't know why you would do it otherwise.
I think I heard someone say, I don't remember who now, but like just the idea that they maybe just have these basically packages of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like an A13 with a 64 gigabyte SSD is just like a thing they already have tons of or can very easily make. So they just put it in there, even though they'll maybe never need that amount. Like, but they need some, right? Because it runs iOS, like a version of iOS, which is also hilarious. But yeah, question. I have a question for you. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this yet. Is it possible to do Touch ID on a keyboard with a Mac that doesn't support it if you have that display? Does anybody know the answer to that question? Do you understand what I'm asking?
I don't know. My guess would be no, that they're not sending any like secure enclave authentication over Thunderbolt.
Because I know that like the display, it enables a Mac to do things that otherwise a Mac couldn't do, like spatial audio and stuff like that.
And Ahoy Telephone will work on Macs that don't support it if they're hooked up to this display. But I have not seen anything about Touch ID. I would be surprised if they had enabled that. It'd be cool, but...
Yeah, fair enough. I just wondered how much of the package, right, that actually gets included.
There was another tweet that I really liked by this guy named Federico who said, Apple is making a new consumer display that has the guts of a base model iPad, but the iPad still doesn't really support external displays. That made me laugh.
Yeah, well, that guy's an idiot, so of course he makes it.
What does he know?
Well, I mean, it's true though, right? It is a base model iPad inside. You know, it's even got the 64 gigs of storage. And I just find it, I understand like this is a display, it's a modern display that, you know, you start seeing this convergence of, well, it's not just a monitor, it also powers software features even for Macs that do not have them. So it makes sense to have an A13 inside. But if you think about it, it's kind of ironic that the same hardware, right, of a base model iPad is in a display. And that, of course, the display does display things, but the iPad still can't. And, you know, it's a funny tweet, but the underlying point is true. I would be really surprised. I actually also liked this tweet from Chris Lawley, friend of the show, if anybody can find it. It was in response to this tweet, I think. And Chris said, like, personal theory, you know, I see that the iPad Pro supports the what's the Pro Display XDR?
Okay, I got it.
Yes.
I had a bit of an epiphany over the weekend. The Studio Display requires the USB-C 10 gigabit per second. The Pro Display XDR requires Thunderbolt. The iPad Air got that USB spec, and the iPad Pro got Thunderbolt. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but monitor support coming in iOS 16?
So that would be...
This feels like, this to me, no offense to you and Chris, the desperation of an iPad user.
Probably.
Of like...
you're right.
Like doing the string, you know, on like the Always Sunny meme. It's like, please give me what I want and I'll find a way to get there.
Yeah.
Maybe he's right, but I don't know. I just feel like, you know, to hurt too many times, that kind of thing, you know.
Still, I'm going to be upset if they don't do it in 16 because it's just so obvious at this point that all the pieces for this are ready. They just gotta do it. And honestly, they have been ready for the past couple of years. That's what stings here, that they have done the pointer and the Magic Keyboard in 2020 and multitasking was already there. So I guess the only thing that they added was multi-window, but that was also in 2020. So really for the past 2 years, all the technical pieces have been in place, but they haven't done it. And now that it stings even more because now they're back to making their own consumer display, and so all those feelings, they bubble up again. That's why I think iPad users are in the bargaining stage again, you know, because it's like, come on, just do it, you know, come on, can't you just do it? And I can see so
I want to understand what you're hoping for or looking for here. Is it just that like you could plug it into a display and you would get a bigger view, like, or do you want like free moving windows, more apps on screen, like that kind of stuff?
Well, I would be fine with just having an extended home screen, so that you move beyond the basic mirroring that you have now. And what you can do is you have your iPad that retains its home screen, and you can place other apps and other windows on the external monitor. So it's like extended display mode on the Mac, but on iPadOS. Now, that would be the bare minimum. Like, don't do mirroring. Let me place other windows on the other display. But there would be some additional niceties, I think, that would be, nice to have. Like, for example, can I put the iPad in clamshell mode and use my existing Bluetooth keyboard and Bluetooth trackpad and do what I would be able to do with a Mac but on an external display? Right now, if you plug in an iPad Pro to an external monitor and you lock the iPad Pro, you don't see anything anymore on the external monitor. It just goes black.
Yeah, that is annoying.
But also, I could make an argument in favor of maybe not freely resizable windows, maybe not that, but more sizing options, more layout options. And Apple likes to do this sort of thing, right? They take an existing feature from macOS and they remix it, if you will. They convert it to an iPadOS equivalent. Look what they've done with the app switcher, with split view, with slide over. Like, they take something that you want and they put a new spin on it. So I would be fine with not the macOS system. So you go to the corner of the window and the cursor becomes the two arrows and you can freely resize a window. I could live without that on iPadOS, but I think if they do add support for external monitors, they also need to do multiple sizing options, meaning you can't just do external monitor support, but split view remains limited to 2 windows at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta support more layout modes than just 2 apps at the same time. So a compromise is what I'm looking for, I guess.
If they were to do the true multi-window support, do you see those application windows or whatever, the document windows, being fully resizable, or do you think that we would get options?
Well, something like Windows comes to mind, right? Where you have when you have all those like the corners of the display and the layouts. Like on Windows, when you hold down, I don't remember the key, but when you hold down, you get the pop-up. And some, like macOS does this kind of, but it's better on Windows. And third-party window managers, they do this on macOS, like a list of pre-assembled configurations, like top right or bottom left, or 3/4 of the screen. And maybe you could do 4 apps at the same time. Maybe it would also depend on the size of the external display that you're connecting to. Meaning, if you are connecting to a 15-inch external monitor, like the portable OLED monitor that I have, it's a portable gaming monitor. It's 15.6 inches. Like, on that thing, I could see maybe 3 apps in split view, but not any more than that. But if you are connecting to a 27-inch monitor, well, in that case, you can do, 4 or 5. Maybe you can do a grid of iPad windows in quote-unquote split view. That is more of a grid view. There you go, Apple. Just call it grid view. Do a grid view in iPadOS 16 for external monitor support. That would be excellent. So it's complicated, right? Because you don't want to have the complexity of macOS, and you likely don't want to deal with all that baggage that comes from decades of macOS tradition. And you're like, well, if we do this on iPadOS, we don't want to do the freely resizable window with the dragging indicator for a window. And okay, I understand that. But at the same time, you got to compromise somewhere. And maybe the compromise would be, what if we gave users more pre-built layouts? So it's not freely resizable, but you get more options than you do now. That system would also scale to a future bigger iPad Pro, right? So that would be okay, I think.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. You can stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything, your products, services, and even the content you create. Squarespace has got you covered. You can use insights to grow your business. If you've ever wondered where your site visits and sales are coming from and which channels are being the most effective for you, you can analyze all of that right within Squarespace. And once you have that data, you can improve your website and build a marketing strategy based on your top keywords or most popular products and contents. You can also sell your products in an online store. This works for both physical and digital products. Squarespace has all the tools you need to start selling online, a bunch of integrations that work really well. And you can stand out in any inbox with Squarespace email campaigns. Encourage your visitors to sign up as email subscribers and start them on a journey to becoming loyal customers. Just start with an email template and customize it by applying your brand ingredients like site colors and logo. Plus, built-in analytics measure the impact of every send. Squarespace is so great. I love how easy it is to customize, picking your colors and typefaces. You're not dropping down to CSS. It's all a beautiful click and drag interface. But you can, if you need to, do things like code injection and CSS override for those of us who want a little more fine-grained control. But the stuff they give you out of the box works wonderfully. Head to squarespace.com/connected for a free trial with no credit card required. And when you're ready to launch, use the offer code CONNECTED to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/connected. And when you decide to sign up, use the offer code CONNECTED to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for the show. Our thanks to Squarespace for the support of Connected and all of Relay FM.
So last week, I asked Connected listeners, the passionate ones, to tell me if they use SharePlay. And I've been getting tweets from Connected listeners that use SharePlay. Because I was genuinely intrigued at what one may use SharePlay for. And I could imagine some scenarios, but I got a few that were additional. Will you allow me to read from the listener base? So I'll go through this pretty quickly.
We'll allow it, yeah.
Okay, so JD, who had a very special story in Connected Pro today, and a friend use it to watch Disney Plus shows together when they're released. Rod uses it to listen to music with his mom, who lives far away. Chris uses it for date night. Chris, who we previously mentioned in the show today, when his partner was traveling, they watched a movie together. Sigmund has used it for big screen bilingual group viewing of TV shows using iOS devices to deliver audio tracks of choice.
What? What does that mean?
I don't know, but that's what Sigmund told me.
Sigmund has used it.
Big screen. So here's what I'm thinking Sigmund meant of like a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
watching an Apple TV show at the same time. I don't know what big screen. I didn't really know what that part meant, but big screen. But like people could choose their own language, right?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah. Yeah.
And so everyone could watch it at the same time, but they get their audio tracks that they want. Ricky watches movies with their friend who lives across the US from them. Daniel uses it to watch TikTok videos with their sister who just moved away. Alex uses it to watch TV Plus shows with their partner who lives in another country. Kent uses it as a way to hack around Fitness Plus so they can do fitness workouts with their partner in the same room and both get the activity for it. Claire uses it to share music with their partner, who lives far away, of course, and really appreciates the shared audio controls like play and pause, so you can actually sync up properly. They also use it with a group of friends to do working together, hangout type situations. So just a bunch of people on a call. Someone might put a video on or whatever, but they're all hanging out. Eric uses it for Fitness Plus when working out with their daughter while traveling. And Cade watches TikToks with their partner who lives far away and also for date night movies. So there's a lot of overlap in these. But that was every single person in our audience that wanted to contact me about how they use SharePlay. I saved all of them, and that is them. Most of these I could have imagined is a thing that people would want to do. I just didn't know how much of a great experience it would have been, but everybody that contacted me seemed pretty positive about SharePlay as a technology. So it's definitely making people happy, but I still, having read all of that, I just don't think I would go through the aggravation of using it, because all of these things, right? So let's imagine we're watching a movie, right? I don't need to be on a FaceTime call for the whole time. I don't need that.
That's the thing that gets me too. These use cases are great, and I'm really happy that people send these over. Maybe it's not just for us, and that's fine. And I think that was sort of my conclusion from when I covered SharePlay. It's not for me, and it's fine. I understand why other people will love it. I just don't want to watch a whole thing on FaceTime. Again, I would have 2 years ago. I wouldn't now. But hey, if it works great for you, excellent. We'll see.
I wouldn't have 2 years ago. Like it wasn't.
Yeah,
this isn't even just a
some
pandemic thing
point.
for me. It's like this is just not a way that I could imagine wanting to consume content. But I like that there are people that are using it, because honestly, my assumption is I was going to get like one tweet, right, throughout the whole week, and I got a bunch, and so I thought that was pretty great. But it's still just not a thing. Stephen, you obviously weren't on last week's episode. Have you ever used SharePlay?
I have not.
No, okay.
Maybe you and I can watch a movie together.
I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I like the idea, right? If you could do all of the stuff without like there needing to be a persistent active FaceTime call, like I like the idea of like shared experiences, playing and pausing at the same time and all that kind of stuff. I would be just as happy with like an iMessage thread that runs, Like to me, the idea of like me and Steven and Federico were going to watch a movie, and for the whole time I'm watching the movie, I can see what they're like. I can see them. Like that's odd to me. Like that is weird. But I'm happy that people like it. I mean, what it does feel like from most of these situations is it does feel like an intimate experience, right? That like people tend to use SharePlay with a loved one, like or their partner or whatever, and like that makes sense to me. But even then, like if me and Adina watch a movie, I don't look at her face for the entire movie. You know what? It's just weird to have the face in front of me.
That would be creepy.
You know?
That would be creepy. Yeah. You're watching a movie, you're just staring at her.
Maybe I'm watching movies wrong.
Maybe you are.
That is my SharePlay.
I wanted to touch on this really weird story that was out at the end of last week where Porsche, their CEO, Oliver Bloom, had this quote about discussing exciting common projects with Apple. Like, what does this mean? What is he talking about? They're, quote, on the same wavelength, and managers from Porsche traveled to the U.S. late last year to discuss joint projects with Apple. Here's another quote. We already have Apple CarPlay. We will expand on that.
I mean, this feels pretty cut and dry to me.
I think it's like the car key stuff or whatever.
Car keys.
Car keys.
Yeah. Like, I think people see this. A bunch of people in the Discord are telling me FaceTime audio and SharePlay works together. Fine. My point still remains. I don't need a current active audio call, let alone a video call. Like,
so now instead of seeing another person's face, you can hear them breathing as you watch a movie.
I just don't need it. Anyway, this is like one of those classic, a CEO got overexcited and said a thing, and then everyone's like, oh, this must mean Apple and Porsche are working on a car together, which like, it just doesn't marry up to me. When Apple has an active project that not a lot of car companies are involved in and could get more involved in, which is the car keys thing that you mentioned, Stephen. Like using your phone as your car key. Like,
yeah.
That's because, if the expectation is that at some point Apple will want to make a car or have some kind of car project, I don't imagine it's going to be with Porsche. It's too high end, right? Like, yes, Apple was a luxury brand or whatever, but they will still want to make a car that people can buy or whatever, if they're ever going to do this. Mm-hmm. I don't think Porsche's the right place for that. Unless, I don't know Porsche's corporate structure. I'll look at that in a minute. Maybe they own one of the smaller car brands, but whatever. And also, like, there are current reports suggesting that the car team has been disbanded currently again anyway.
I think the car project, just anytime anything gets close to it, it makes news because it's such a weird story. Mm-hmm. And that it has been seemingly, from what we know, on and off again over the years. And I think the most recent thing we heard about its organization is that Kevin Lynch was in charge of it. Mm-hmm. And, maybe he's doing another big reset, or maybe it's really dead this time, and that was kind of his decision. But it's just so unlike other things we hear about the company. I think that it makes the news anytime anything is like remotely in its orbit.
Yeah, Porsche's owned by Volkswagen, so it makes even less sense. Right? Like, Apple would more likely work with Volkswagen than Porsche project to build a car.
Probably. Plus, Eddie Q's on the board of Ferrari. So
they're not going to work with Ferrari to make a car either. I can tell you that.
No, but like maybe he would be more willing to work with a more normal car brand than another supercar brand.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I got big news for Boot Camp users.
Oh, wow. All those people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Apple updates Boot Camp with Studio Display drivers for Windows users. So if you have an Apple Studio Display and you use Boot Camp, it apparently will work. There's no center stage or spatial audio.
So Boot Camp still exists.
For now.
Well, hold on. What happens if you try to use a FaceTime video call on Windows via Boot Camp on the web? Because you can do FaceTime calls on the web.
Oh, you can on the web.
You can on the web. So in that case, will center stage kick in or
I don't
not?
think center stage works on the web version of FaceTime.
That's too bad.
I put this in here mainly because I want to talk about Boot Camp and how it's super dead. It's only on Intel Macs. This 9 to 5 Mac article is worth noting that at least for now, Boot Camp remains available only for Macs with Intel processors. I don't see Apple bringing this back, even if Windows on ARM was a relevant thing, which it's really not at this point. There was also a story where someone was working to get a Studio Display working on their PC, and it required jumping through all these hoops. I don't know who would buy this thing just expecting it to work with their PC, but apparently this person did, and you have to like jump through a Thunderbolt card and all sorts of stuff. It's pretty wacky.
I could imagine someone wanting to be like, I have 2 computers. I want 1 monitor. Will this one be able to suffice? You know what I mean? And so, like, I think it would be weird for somebody to buy this to use with their PC, but I could imagine someone who's buying it to use with both their Mac and their PC, you know? So I guess it's good that... But does it... So, okay, it works well with Boot Camp, right? But does it work well with a PC then?
It's got to be a PC that supports Thunderbolt, which
not a lot.
Not very many. This
No.
Justin, the guy who wrote this post, ended up using a PCIe Thunderbolt expansion card, and basically you run video from your GPU into this card and then back out of this card via Thunderbolt. That worked. They do recommend installing the Boot Camp drivers to make it work better, and it is still kind of broken. I would imagine that if Boot Camp wasn't a thing, like Apple wouldn't even bother with this at all. But because Boot Camp is a thing, you can get these drivers and run it. But it's a bit of a mess. And his point is like, it should be easier. I don't see why you expected it to be. Maybe it should be, but making it Thunderbolt based already rules out a lot of the Windows world. It's just kind of how it is.
No, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, because it can work. You've just got to have Thunderbolt on your motherboard, which is a thing. So you can get PCs with Thunderbolt. It's a thing you can do. So you just don't buy a Thunderbolt display if your PC doesn't have a Thunderbolt connection. Like, that doesn't seem like a complicated thing to me.
It's just not as, if they'd use DisplayPort or something, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but that's not how Apple rolls.
But why would they?
Yeah, I mean, Thunderbolt is better because it can do all of these things, even if the trade-off is a lot of people don't have it.
It would make no sense for me to Apple to be like, we need to make sure that this display is useful to the wider market. Like, no, you can just go and buy like any display from any company and use that one instead. Like, I think this is one of those just like arguments for the sake of having it, as opposed to actually there being any logic to it.
Yeah, I can get down with that. Do you guys ever try Boot Camp?
Yeah, I have some Boot Camp memories from 10, 11 years ago, something like 2010 or 2011. Basically, I remember playing some, don't ask me why, but some Fallout 3 on my old MacBook Pro via Boot Camp. And I remember that it ran horribly. And at the time, I couldn't figure out how to connect a gaming controller to my Mac. And so I think I was playing with the Magic Mouse and keyboard.
Oh boy.
Probably.
Like a true gamer.
Or the Magic Track. Like a true gamer. Like a true PC gamer. But that was horrible. So that was my boot camp memory. I guess another boot camp memory is getting it set up for friends who got a Mac but also needed to have like a Windows fallback for things like programs that they were using at the university at the time that didn't have a Mac OS equivalent. And again, in 2010, 2011, like web apps like we have today just were not a thing. So if like school or like your job will give you like a Windows application that you could only use on Windows, and if you didn't have a Windows machine, you would be out of luck. And so I remember setting up a boot camp on my friends' MacBooks, but that was that. Like I used it for like 2 days with Fallout 3, and I remember that it was just terrible performance.
I never did it. I think I know I looked into it. And I think just the complicated nature of it all, just I didn't bother with it because I had no real need for it. It was more like a curiosity than anything else. I'm sure you did, Stephen. I'm just like, even just for the fun of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did it back like a long time ago when I was consulting full time because I would need Windows for some things, and it was easier to carry one laptop than two. But I also did the trick where you could use, I think Parallels and Fusion both have this. I forget which one I was using at the time, where it could boot your boot camp partition as a virtual machine. So you could run it as a VM or fully boot it into boot camp. But like,
I forgot that. That's cool. That's cool that it could do that.
But this was like Windows Vista, Windows. I don't even think it was Windows 7 yet. This was a long time ago. But and I know people use it for games and stuff, but I would imagine the percentage of Mac users who ever used Boot Camp has to be pretty small.
Or who used it for more than a week.
Because it is kind of annoying that it's fully separate, and having something in a VM where like you can still use your Mac apps side by side, like that's pretty nice. I
think I stopped at the part where it's like you have to make a partition, and I just don't think that I had enough storage space to like. Because I know I would have done all of this on my first iMac, right? Because that was when I was most like tinkery, because I was like learning it all and stuff. And I just know that like I would have got the base one, right? So it would have had whatever the base storage was. And the idea of like partitioning the hard drive for something I wasn't sure if was actually going to be a thing that I cared about for more than a week, I think that was where I ended up bailing out on it.
Yeah. I remember in the early days, there were people like trying to get Windows running on those Intel Macs because Boot Camp wasn't there on day one. Like I just remember reading these blog posts of people like figuring out how to run it on those like white plastic iMacs like you had, doing all this wild firmware stuff. And then eventually Apple just had a solution for people.
Did they say they would? Or did it just appear one day? Like, I don't remember. When they announced the Intel iMac, did they say, there was Boot Camp like a thing that they announced?
I don't think it was, but I could be wrong.
Can I ask you a semi-unrelated question? Have you been on Twitter this past few days?
A little bit.
That's not the question. But I wanted to check because, like, you mentioned VMs. Have you seen what Steve Transmith has been tweeting about VMware and macOS? Can you tell me what that is about?
Is he running them all on a Raspberry Pi or some other machine or something?
I think so.
I don't know.
So, but what is that anyway? So you can virtualize the latest version of macOS now?
I guess so.
VMware? Interesting.
Yeah, no, he's running it on the Intel Nook.
Okay. Huh.
I'll put a link in the show notes and in Discord of his thread so you can see that.
Yeah, it's ESXC. What's the name? ESXi? Yes.
Yes, that's it.
Anyway. That one. So you can virtualize why would you virtualize well, I guess why would you virtualize macOS?
Because you want to run Tiger.
To try macOS things?
Because you want to have a cool tweet thread.
Steven, why don't you also do this and like virtualize all the versions of macOS?
I have a bunch of them set up what happens to them when I switch to an Apple Silicon machine, I'm not sure.
I don't know. It kind of feels to me like there is a project in here for you to do like one specific thing on all the versions of macOS that you have around. Whether they're running on, like, I don't know, this maybe this sounds silly, but like the same text document as seen on all the possible versions of macOS.
Well, he done that. That's the screenshot library, right?
That's the sort of, yeah, but it would be cool to see it in action on like an actual machine or a VM.
Oh.
You know, not
like
just a screenshot, but like the whole, yeah.
The screenshot library was all taken on real hardware. None of that was virtualized.
Nice.
It took forever.
He's such a hipster. He's such a hipster, man.
I like
That's
my
like
bits to be running on authentic G4s.
I need a pixel accurate resolution.
Pixel perfect, untouched screenshot as the engineers intended.
Stephen wanted to wait the amount of time it would take to load everything, not have it load more quickly because it was on modern hardware. Yeah.
My Lion screenshots were originally not Retina, and I didn't have a Retina machine that would run Lion for a long time. And then I did, and I remade those and re-uploaded them because Lion was the first OS that shipped, like with that 2012 MacBook Pro, that first Retina machine.
Back to the Mac. That was the event.
Well, it was before that, but in that era.
With Craig Federighi's hands shaking as he
was demoing Lion. Then yes, the MacBook Pro I think had been announced before that, but yeah, he was nervous. They give him good stuff now.
No. You can't just say something like that and then we all move on from it.
Hey, maybe it's like a ginger tea or something, you know.
Yeah, he's just having a little tea. What I imagine it is he's had lots and lots of coaching on presentations, and he's way better than he used to be.
Yes.
If you really want to have like a good time, go watch the introduction of the Xserve because a very young Tim Cook comes out to talk about enterprise customer support, and it is the driest thing you've ever seen. It's so bad.
This is new to me. Can I just search for
YouTube
Tim Cook
Xserve introduction?
Yes, so many.
It was like 2001 or 2 or something. 2002.
Steve Jobs introduces Xserve 2002.
Is this one of those things where like Tim and Johnny and Steve were all sitting together on stools and talking? Is it like one of those kinds of presentations?
It looks like one of those.
Yeah, it's Phil and Steve and Tim at the end. They're answering press questions.
Because I know Tim was there for the iPhone 4 thing as well, I think.
Yeah.
If memory serves. Like another one of these kinds of things. He used to show up in these
But if you scrub around, like find a Tim Cook section, and it's pretty unexciting.
Wow, it's very young also.
His hair's like really brown here. I've just never really considered him as having hair color.
I feel like it's kind of gray on top, maybe. Maybe it's just the lighting.
He looks so young here. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, he's not wearing glasses yet. He likes to wear a watch, though. We know that much.
He's a young man.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, famous people age too, you know? Like, I think about these things. Like, famous people, like celebrities, they also do normal things.
And now Tim Cook's jacked. He wasn't jacked in this video.
No, I just unmuted a section and got to a little Tim Cook comedy routine part. You call the software company, and what do they say? Go to the hardware company. You call the hardware company, what do they say? And it's like, all right, I'm done with Tim Cook's comedy here. I'm fine, thank you. You know, to explain to me what customer support is like, Tim. This is before, maybe this is like, that's his origin story for customer satisfaction. It's like none of these customers are satisfied, and I'm not happy about it.
That's
so I'm
right.
Gonna change it today.
Maybe he'll bring back the Xserve.
I thought Federico was going to ask Stephen a different question, and I actually do want both of your opinions on this.
Okay.
It seems to be that everyone's really upset that you can't remove the power cable from the back of the studio display.
An interesting thing to be upset about, for sure.
Everyone's really upset about this.
I'm upset about it.
Okay, tell me why. I want to know why you're upset about it, because I don't know why
Tell me why.
I know why realistically people would say that you could be upset about it.
Yeah.
But me, Myke Hurley, has never run into a situation where this has been a problem for me, so I would like you to explain why.
I haven't either. Like, I've never damaged a power cable on anything, I don't think. But in a $1,600 display, the power cable should be removable if it's damaged or if you need a longer one or a shorter one. If it's a standard power connector. So there's like the repairability angle.
But it isn't a standard power connector, right? Like that's the point.
Well, I don't know because it's stuck in there.
That's a good point. That's a good point, though. Like
people have removed it.
Yeah, you can yank it out. I saw a GIF of Linus doing it, but
yeah,
it's also from the company that made a magnetic charger for the iMac.
Yeah, that's weird. It's weird that they didn't bring it over to here. I guess it's a cost thing, but like that is the part where I'm like, I don't know why they spent all that time and effort on the iMac one if they're only going to use it on this one machine.
Yeah, I don't know.
But at the same time, it's like this is just one of those things where I think it's being blown out of proportion a little bit for like the actual care that people have over it. You know, I have no doubt that I'm going to now hear from everyone who cares about this, but like I'll just say like, if I do something and break the cable's broken, I'll just take it to the Apple Store and pay for a new one. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but all I know is I've never had to do this ever in my whole life.
And I'm sure the power cable will be under the, any accidental damage clause or Apple Care or whatever. And I'm sure if it's not, they'll have just because it is removable, they have a special tool to do it. Like, go look at the 9to5 Mac link in the show notes. It's hilarious. The tool that they're using to like pull the cable out.
What is that?
It just gives more force, so you can pop it right out.
It's just like something that makes it needlessly complicated. Like if it were just a standard power cable, it's just simpler for everybody.
I agree with that.
Apple doesn't have to go around fixing them.
Speaking of cables and stuff, what happened to the self-repair store that they announced months ago?
I think I asked someone about this recently, like similar to you. I don't remember.
I think we talked about an upgrade when I was on, maybe,
yeah. And it basically the thought that I ended up coming to is they announced it, so they did it before the right to repair legislation, and it's like it will happen. It was supposed to be early.
We didn't say when.
2020. I think they said early next year.
Oh.
I think early has passed at this point, but nothing has happened.
Yeah, not yet.
Because I still got that screen I want to replace,
Well, how early is early? Like, isn't that the title of a Smith's album also? No, that's How Soon Is Now.
I saw your phone screen when you hear Myke. It's real bad.
Mm-hmm. It's terrible. Not cracked though.
It is cracked. It is 100% cracked.
No, Apple says not cracked. So no.
So you've seen it in person, Steven?
Yeah, I ran my finger over it and was sad.
Did you cut yourself in doing that? Is it that bad?
Almost.
Really?
It's not that bad. You can feel the deep scratches, not cracks.
You can feel the glass? Oh God. Okay.
No, it's fine though.
That is
definitely not accidental damage replacement worthy.
This episode of Connected is made possible by Hover, one of Relay FM's longest running sponsors. When you have that one big idea, where do you go? Well, your business starts with a domain name, so for many entrepreneurs, Hover is that first big leap. They have over 300 domain name extensions to choose from, so no matter what you want to build, there's a domain name waiting for you. And they have excellent technical support to answer any questions you may have. They're dedicated to getting you online, not upselling you. Hover has free Whois privacy so the bad guys don't get your information, clean UX and UI, and monthly sales on popular top-level domains. It's easy to see why Hover is the popular choice for people starting businesses. All of my domains are at Hover. I have more domains than any one person should, but that's just part of doing what I do for a living. And anytime I need to do anything with them, change any DNS records, make sure auto-renew is on or off, depending on what I want to do. I'm just always impressed with how easy it is to do everything in Hover. A bunch of domain registrars have really messy dashboards. They trick you into things. Hover just laid out cleanly, easy to use, easy to understand. Buy your domain and start using it today. Go to hover.com/connected and get a 10% discount on all new purchases. That URL, hover.com/connected. Make a name for yourself with Hover. Our thanks to Hover for their support of the show and Relay FM. Mac Studio time.
You got one? No, you haven't got one yet.
Not yet. Not yet. But I'm excited about it.
Soon, but not yet.
I'm sure people have seen MKBHD's video. We'll have a link in the notes. His takeaways, the M1 Ultra is not as fast as his 28 core Intel Mac Pro in absolutely everything. And some things it totally is, or even faster. But also that machine is like tens of thousands of dollars and is the highest end Intel Mac ever made. So against my 12 core Mac Pro, the M1 Max is going to beat it in almost everything. The thing I'm worried about is the fan. And so in his video, it's mentioned, and Jason talked about it, Someone Upgrade, and I think in his review, that you can hear the Mac Studio all the time. And I had kind of assumed that because I was getting the M1 Max and not the Ultra, like one reason I did that was it should be silent because the chassis is built for both. And yes, the heatsink is different between the two, but I expected not to hear any fan noise. And it seems like that may not be the case. Now, Jason says it's not a big deal, and it may not be, but I'm curious about how that's going to play out for me.
I don't understand why there's a persistent fan spinning. It doesn't make sense to me in the Max version.
Yeah,
because my MacBook Pro doesn't do it.
Yeah, that's the thing that's really the most interesting. Is like this is the same chip, and a laptop will be silent until it's really under load. And I expect like any machine I've had except for my Mac Pro, if I put it under load, I'm going to hear it, right? I could hear the iMac Pro on occasion. I've never heard the Mac Pro ever. And now it's basically like level with my head where it sits at the end of my desk. But at idle, I really expected this thing to be completely silent. And maybe it's not a big deal. I don't expect it to be loud enough that like my microphone would hear it. But if I'm in here and it's quiet and I hear it, that may be annoying. Because this thing is going to sit on the desk. It'll be behind my display. Pretty close, right? And in a machine that's clearly the expectation, like in all of Apple's press stuff in the Apple Store. So I went to go see this in the Apple Store the other day. It's just right there, like next, like right under the display, kind of above where your mouse or trackpad would be. And to have something that close to you and it make noise all the time, like that could be frustrating if you're sensitive to that sort of thing. I don't know.
So a couple of questions. One is from Zach. Does your Mac Pro not make noise all the time?
I cannot. The fans always spin. They are inaudible at their resting rate.
I guess they're big, right? They're so big that I guess they can spin, and they can spin more quietly and move the air through.
Yeah, they're not spinning real fast.
Okay. My second question, you don't have to have it that close though, right? Like
No.
You could put that where you have your current Mac Pro if you just got a cable long enough, right?
Yeah, and I have a long Thunderbolt cable that the Studio Display or the Mac Studio and the Pro Display will be plugged into each other. So I could have it further away if it's an issue. We'll see. As I get into it, I'm going to talk about kind of my setup situation in a minute. I have a lot of other stuff to contend with on my desk now, and it's not all quite dialed in where it's going to go. But I just found it interesting that Apple clearly designed this for better or for worse to be out in the open on the desk. And like in the Apple Store, could not hear it. But people are milling about. There's like background music and stuff. So I'd imagine that if you're in an office environment or like a studio with other people, it may be different. But if you're like me and you work in a building by yourself all day, every day, maybe it'd be a little noticeable. I'm definitely going to follow up on that.
Maybe it's like you can hear it, but you don't notice it, if that makes sense, right? Because it's just intriguing to me, right? Because obviously they built it this way because of the Ultra and it needing, I guess, more constant airflow because of the amount of power it's drawing and stuff. But it's just intriguing to me that like it works exactly the same with a chip that doesn't need it.
Yeah, like I would expect the firmware on the two to act differently with the fans.
And the reason I say this, right, like as I said it on Upgrade 2, right, it's just a reiteration. I have a MacBook Pro and it has an M1 Max in it, and I don't hear the fan. Like there is no consistent fan noise from my laptop, like all the time. This is not a thing. So this chip doesn't need it. The same as like there are some M1 Macs that have fans in them and some that don't, but they still have the same amount of performance. But for whatever reason, I guess it's like so they can run at high speed longer, I guess. There are fans in my MacBook Pro. They'll come on when it's needed. Just the idea of there being like, if you're just open Safari and got 2 tabs open, the fan's going. It's like, I don't know if you need to do this. It's an intriguing thing where it's like clearly the system works that way because they have put so many fans in it to deal with the really heavy chip. And again, it's like they're building these machines now, these chassis for like, they're going to be around for like 5 years.
Yeah.
10 years, right? So like they know their roadmap over the next few years and they know we need headroom, right? This is where they've gotten themselves stuck in the past, right? Like headroom is something they need.
Yeah. There's no thermal corner here, hopefully.
And so they know that like they're going to have a chip in a few years that's 3 times more powerful, for let's just say, just pick a number out of the air, than the current M1 Ultra. So you've got to have the headroom on it. But it is still intriguing to me of like, why does the fan need to move constantly? It's an intriguing decision. I don't know. It wouldn't turn me off it, by the way. Like if I had ordered one of these things, because I don't care about this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are always noises like in my studio, right? Like I can always hear a noise of some description. Like I have a fridge in the studio, like a small one, but that always makes a sound, right? Because it's a fridge. It doesn't bother me at all. Like I'm not one of these types of nerds. Are you one of these types of nerds, Steven? Like this is no criticism to you, but like, are you a like can't deal with a fan kind of nerd?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like right now, the heat is running in my office. It's extremely quiet. I can hear it if I think about it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I'm not worried about it. I'm not canceling my order. I'm just curious to how it plays out. Anyways, there was also a lot of ink spilled about the SSD modules.
This has been like 4 separate news cycles.
I know. So there was a YouTube video and then a bunch of articles about it. Someone took apart a Mac Studio and said, oh my gosh, there's additional slots in here for SSD modules. The way the storage works on this machine is like it works in my Mac Pro, where there are slots and you have the modules that clip into them. Now, all of the controllers and all like the brains are on package, like on the system on the chip, or in my Mac Pro in the T2, where the SSDs are really just storage pools, right? The modules they're not like an SSD you may buy from Samsung and like put in a case, right? It's just a component. Apple says there's nothing user upgradable inside the Mac Studio. If you watch this video, you have to take the thing pretty far apart before you even get to these. Some people thought, oh, hey, this is great. I could buy one and add additional storage later. Maybe someone like Mac Sales or, other companies would make modules that would fit into this. Or maybe it'll be like what Apple does with the iMac Pro RAM upgrade program. So people probably forgotten about this. I had until I was putting this together, where if you have an iMac Pro and you want more RAM put in it, that RAM is slotted. You can just put more RAM in it, but it's inside the machine. And you can take it to Apple and they'll charge you and they take it apart and put more memory in it for you. So lots of questions about what this means, what these slots could do, why they are there. And this ended up breaking in the news like a few days later. I was on vacation, so I wrote a little bit about it, but over the weekend I was talking to some people. We all kind of came to the agreement that our guess is that all Mac Studios have the number of slots required for the 8 terabyte model, and maybe the 4 terabyte model as well, where they need additional slots because the form factor of module that Apple is using is small. There was a YouTube video where someone tried taking a Mac Pro SSD module and putting it in the Mac Studio, and it won't fit. It's like physically a smaller component. And so they need these additional slots populated for the higher end SKUs, and they don't want to build 2 versions of the logic board. So some Mac Studios just come with these empty slots, right? Mm-hmm. It makes sense, right? It's an efficient way of doing this from Apple's perspective of building a bunch of these things. But then someone took apart 2 Mac Studios and put the modules from both of them into one machine.
I'll show you.
You won't let me upgrade. I'll just buy a second computer and steal the storage out of it. What an efficient and economical way of doing this. That machine refused to boot, freaked out, because just like on the T2, like in my Mac Pro that I'm looking at now lovingly, or like the last 27-inch iMac and some other machines, the SSDs are tied to the system and they're encrypted by that T2 chip. And in the Apple Silicon world, a very similar process takes place where the storage seems to be married to the logic board. In fact, when I upgraded the SSDs in my Mac Pro, I think I had it with, I forget what I ordered it with, maybe 2 terabytes of internal storage, and upgraded to 8 with Apple's parts. I had to put the machine in DFU mode and hook it up to another Mac and use Apple Configurator to like re-bless the drives. And let me tell y'all, it is maybe the scariest thing I've ever done with a computer. This is like, if this doesn't work, or if the power goes out, or anything goes wrong, my Mac Pro is in trouble and is going to need to repair. Now, it's not saying Apple couldn't change this in the future. Maybe in the future they'll have a program. Maybe in the future Apple Configurator to be updated to support this. But sort of the excitement people had of, oh my gosh, there's slots in here, I can just add more storage. That's just not the way this is. And in the Apple Silicon era, it's really unclear what this will look like, because so far we've not had any Apple Silicon machines where this is possible, right? On all the M1 machines and the MacBook Pros, the storage isn't slotted like this, right? This is the first time we've seen this, and so it's a little bit of an unknown, but definitely like very interesting to follow this as people were kind of working on it and discovering things over the week.
I think it's pretty fair to say that this is still not a device that Apple, I believe, will ever intend to be user serviceable. Like, maybe you'll be able to take it to an Apple store one day and get more
I think
SSD
at best,
put in it.
I think at best that's what this is. I don't think it would ever be something that you would like crack open and put drives in that you bought yourself.
It's like in the same way that it has been said that you can take a studio display and have them change your mounting mechanism. Like, it's like you can't do it, but Apple can do it. But this is all leading up to the inevitable of, well, what about the Mac? Like, will the Mac Pro be able to do the things the current one can do? Like, this is the question, right? Because it's, as you say, not an easy process, what you did, but you are allowed to do it.
Right.
You, Stephen Hackett, can go to Apple's website and buy some parts and open it up and, check a bunch of boxes and say, yes, I definitely know what I'm doing, and Apple's not going to take any, like I'm breaking my warranty or whatever it is you say, by doing this. But you are allowed to do it, and that's going to be the question, right? Will that still be the case with 2022 Mac Pro or whatever it's going to be?
Yeah, who knows, right? We just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the M1 Ultra chip is humongous. If you watch this video,
yeah, it's massive.
The thing is huge.
It looks like a Threadripper.
It does. That's exactly what I thought. It looks like a Threadripper. Federico, are you excited about the possibility of Mac Studio SSD upgrades?
Well, I was thinking about this just a few minutes ago, and no, I'm not.
I'm happy to report. Don't care.
Yeah. I mean, look, seriously, I understand why. Especially because they presented it as a modular computer, a modular machine, but that's not sort of the modularity that they had in mind.
Well, so here's the thing. I put this on a Slack the other day. Modular equals outside, expandable equals inside. So I think when Apple says modular, they mean you can hook any display up to it.
So, when you say that, I know what you're saying. To me, those words should be reversed, though, to make more sense. Like, to the way that my brain works.
I don't actually disagree with y'all. I'm saying that's how Apple views it, I think.
Yeah. I know you mean like that. That's, you're kind of reading what you think they're saying, right? But my brain says it should be the other way around. But I hope that Apple at least do consider those two things to be different, and then that's how they explain it. So yeah, I understand why people are annoyed that this is not possible. I still think, I don't know, maybe eventually, and if it's controlled in software, and if there's enough demand for it, I wouldn't be shocking if they open it up eventually. Yeah. But also, I understand what Apple is saying. Like, yeah, you get this box, very powerful. Then if you want to expand it, you buy more external SSDs or whatever, and you use Thunderbolt, and it's fast enough. So I get it, but maybe
it's time to move on from the idea of, expandable anything. So you pick the RAM, you pick the storage, that's it. And enjoy this powerful and pricey computer.
So I want to walk y'all through what my setup situation is going to be.
Oh, okay.
So currently have a Mac Pro 12 core with 8 terabyte boot drive. I have, you know what? You've already made fun of me for the amount of storage I have. I will not hear it again.
I wasn't going to say anything. I just saying it laughing.
No, I mean,
Yeah, I didn't say anything.
you're preserving human knowledge over there. So, yeah.
That's right. It has a internal drive that I clone to every night, and then also has
How big is that one?
8 terabytes. So
Close.
it's just it's got to be the same, right?
Uh-huh.
Got to be able to boot from it. And then I have 16 terabytes for Time Machine.
What?
How many?
Why do you need 16 terabytes of Time Machine?
Did you say 60
16.
or 16?
You may as well have said 60.
16.
You know?
I mean, you
What do you
could
need
say
16 terabytes of
Okay.
Time Machine for? Seriously?
Well, because it's double.
double.
It's double.
Yeah,
the
really? Is
storage,
that the
right?
thing?
And
It's
it's,
double.
well, really, it's because the way it's put together, those are 2 8 terabyte drives that are striped.
Myke? That's what RAID 0 and RAID 1 mean, right? It's the all.
Yeah.
So is that
over
RAID
here.
0?
I don't know. It's wherever it adds the capacity.
Is it RAID 1?
I always
think
get it wrong.
I don't know.
And those drives are on a card, an internal PCI card.
On a card or on a cart? Like what?
I mean, it's on a card on a cart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think about it,
Right,
everything
right.
is ultimately movable. We're on the spinning planet. Do you ever think about the?
Yeah.
Do you ever think
Well,
about
sure.
the permanence of objects?
Honestly, all the time.
jeez.
Like if the planet is spinning, is anything
Right.
standing still? Like that is honestly like a genuinely interesting philosophical problem to have. Like if if our reality is always in motion, is anything ever
Yeah.
standing still? Hence why we can go back to
It's weird,
it's a long
right?
conversation.
I just had this the other day. So I was on
It's
vacation.
weird.
I
It's
was out of
very
town
weird.
for a week, and I came back into my office, and there was a water bottle that I had left open. Like I left the top off of it, like on the little coaster on my desk. And I was like, man, that top stayed off a whole week. It was very strange. Like a very like
Why? Why is that weird?
I don't know. It's just like it struck me. It's like, yeah, this has been in this same place. Well, I've been gone, and now I'm back, and it's untouched. It hasn't moved.
But has it really been in the same place? That's the
Wait.
question.
I have a question for you. There's a lot of things in your
Yeah.
studio. Why is that the only one that made you feel that way?
I think because I've realized I left the cap off the bottle, and it just like it already had my attention, and then it was like one of those freshman dorm room when you're stoned kind of moments. Like, whoa, do things move, man?
I thought you were going to say something like the water had evaporated, and that was what made you feel weird, Okay.
Yeah, it's not that hot here yet. Anyways, keeping.
But also, like, more broadly speaking, like, you could even postulate that, like, if there's no control, and I'm going to get deep
Okay.
here, Stephen, but I think you will appreciate it. Myke won't,
Honestly,
but
at the
you
point
will.
that you said
Like,
postulate, I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to wait until they're finished.
okay, but so, like, if there's no control group to double check on our reality, what is reality even? Like, if reality is all that you see, but there's no other entity that evaluates the thing you see, reality might as well just be something that you've completely made up.
I mean, how do I even know y'all are real? And I'm just not hallucinating the whole episode.
How do you know that the color green that I
You
see
don't. That's the
is
thing.
the same color green that you see? Am I right?
Precisely. Yeah, that's the problem. I'm surprised, Myke, you do not appreciate this kind of
Anyway,
things. Have you been traumatized by these questions before?
No, I was bullied by my family over questions like this. So
God,
no,
I'm
it's not.
sorry.
It's no problem.
I'm sorry.
I did a philosophy. Would this be philosophy? No. Yeah.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
say it is,
Yes.
Well, okay. I did like a philosophy, like, I guess we'll call it a minor kind of thing. And I went home and asked the questions to my family of the thing, or told them like what did you do? And I told them the thing, and they also made fun of me.
Oh, that's stupid. I'm sorry. That sucks.
It just is what it is. Like, it doesn't bother me. We make fun of each other, the three of us, all the time. It's just the way it goes. But like, I think that kind of beat it out of me of like, stop sharing these thoughts with people.
No, you can share with us. You can, especially with me.
I know. But also, I think sometimes I don't want to think about them all.
Speaking of permanence of objects, the Pro Display XTR is going to stay. Obviously, it's amazing, and I love it.
If there's one thing that's permanent, it's that.
That thing is not moving. Okay, so that's not moving.
I'm using this display for another 20 years.
$10,000 will make something permanent. How much that cost? No, that's how much the Mac Pro cost, right?
I don't want to talk about that.
I mean, yours is, come on. I mean, you got 164 terabytes of storage in it. It's like, you're going way over it now.
If I had an LG 5K still, I'd be buying a studio display, or maybe two of them, but Pro Display is awesome.
You have a better monitor, right?
Yeah. I'm not even remotely tempted by it.
You would be downgrading.
I have a Touch ID keyboard now, so I can use Touch ID with my fancy Apple Silicon Mac.
Oh.
Because my keyboard has an eject key where that should be, which is hilarious.
That's when all the SSDs pop out the side.
Yeah. Oh no. So I ordered the 8 terabyte model for my internal drive, so that'll stay the same size. And then I have to move the other storage external, which I am not thrilled about, but it is what it is. So I have a couple of drive enclosures. Well, they're here now. One for the 8 terabyte, the nightly clone. And it's from OWC. It's a USB 3.2, so the 10 gigabit per second. Bus powered, so no power adapter to contend with. Just little metal fanless enclosure to put that SSD in. I've used these in the past and I've had good luck with them, so ordered one for this. And then for the Time Machine one was a little more complicated because that's 2 drives and they need to be put together into one larger volume. And it turns out OWC sells basically a 2-drive version of this. So it uses USB 3.1 Gen 2. So again, it's 10 gigabits per second. Bus powered. It's aluminum. These designs of these cases don't match, which really irks me. I don't know why they've changed their design language, but they have. And I could put these 2 drives in there side by side. I looked at a couple of different options.
Wait.
Yeah.
Why can't you just... because one is 8 and one is 2 times 8.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, why didn't you just buy 2 of the same thing? But it's because one has 2 of them.
Because you can't buy a 16 terabyte SSD.
I have a way for you to get around this.
Mm-hmm.
Buy another 8 terabyte SSD. And then you've got 16 terabytes. You got a whole other 8 terabytes to do whatever you want with, and then just get 2 of those things.
That's true.
Stack them on top of each other.
Those 8 terabyte SSDs are expensive.
Imagine what you could do with another 8 terabytes.
It's true, I suppose. I looked at a couple of different things for the Time Machine, and yes, I could just get like a spinning USB hard drive, but I already have these SSDs. I want to use them. I like they're silent.
Not that matters anymore with your loud computer.
Hush. OWC does, and other companies, have looked at their website. They sell something called the Mini Stack STX, and it is the size of Mac Mini footprint, which is the same size as the Mac Studio footprint. So it goes underneath the machine or on top, and it has the ability to go up to 18 terabytes of storage. You have a NVMe M.2 SSD and then a SATA slot or place to put a SATA drive in, and you can ram them together. The issue with this is a couple of things come up. One, I already have the drives, so just finding an enclosure for them makes more sense to me than buying more drives. It also has an external power supply, which I really don't want to deal with. I like that this can be bus powered, so it's cleaner, and I've got less things to plug in. But this thing has a fan in it. I guess because of the NVMe drive, it needs some air moving over it. Didn't want that. So I've gone with the fanless cases across the board. And this stuff will be like stacked up, I guess, maybe under the Mac Studio behind the screen where I won't really see it. But it makes me miss internal storage already because it's really nice to have all of that inside the computer.
How is it all going to be connected? Is it all Thunderbolt?
These two enclosures are USB, the 10 gigabit per second USB.
USB-C.
Yeah, but these are backup drives. So the nightly one, I don't really care how long it takes because it runs at night. And the Time Machine one, it's still going to be way faster than a Time Machine drive that's like a USB spinning hard drive. And so these will be plenty fast for what I need them for because it's not my primary.
You could put those somewhere else though. They don't need to be on the desk.
Yeah, I could even run long cables and mount them under the desk or on a shelf or something. So that's the plan. It's going to be a stack of external drives. Just a little disappointing, but I am very excited about making the jump to Apple Silicon. And
why don't you just keep the Mac Pro and put the Mac Studio inside of it? And then everything will still be internal. It'll be more internal, really, if you think about it.
I mean, you're not wrong, but you're also not right at all.
I mean, I'm right in my own way. There's so many holes in that case. You could thread some cables through there, you know? Be fine. As Myke says in the Discord, expandable.
Expandable. No!
It's expandable.
So yeah, the Mac Studio is still a couple weeks out. My plan is to sell the Mac Pro. I've already had a couple of people ask me about parts of the Mac Pro. So I don't know. I may take some of the that RAID card, or I was gonna sell because I upgraded the GPU. I was gonna sell it separately and then put the stock GPU back in it to sell the machine. But I sold the stock GPU apparently a year ago. I was looking through what I have on hand. I was oh, I definitely got rid of that already. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to get sold off. I know, Myke, you think I should keep it, but
I think you should keep it. Federico, do you agree with me? I think you should keep the Mac Pro. Yeah, see?
Yeah, keep it. But do something silly with it.
Eric has the most Steven question, which is in the Discord. Why not wait and see what the new Mac Pro will be? Let me tell you, Eric, he's doing that. He is waiting. But whilst waiting, he's changing his computer.
Yeah, this doesn't preclude me from moving again.
No, it doesn't. Flip-flop, there's a reason. That's the other thing, which is why I've said that he should not sell the Mac Pro immediately. I think you need to hang on to it for a while.
Yeah, I'm not selling it immediately because I want to make sure that this works for me and that the noise isn't a problem.
Because we found 2 asterisks so far. Noise, and you're really upset about having to put the SSDs outside.
Yeah.
And so, we've got 2 chinks in the armor here for this computer. And so I wouldn't get rid of the Mac Pro yet because you might not like it.
Yeah, it'll stick around for a bit. And then maybe John Syracuse will buy a RAM out of it or something. Who knows?
Be like a car boot sale, but just people just buying parts out of a Mac Pro.
I was thinking more like organ donation, right? Someone gets your liver, someone gets your heart, someone gets your retinas, etc.
I can't imagine anyone's gonna put the SSD on a bike and get it across town though on ice.
Stat! We got to move this. We got 20 minutes on this GPU. Okay. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Trade. How do you take your coffee? A full body roast, something lighter? We all have our preferences, and no matter what you love to drink, Trade Coffee makes it easy to brew your best cup at home. Trade sells the freshest, roasted, and ethically sourced beans from America's best independent roasters. They ship free to you as often as you like, whole or ground. Whether you're a coffee nerd or just want a better daily cup, Trade's real coffee experts taste test over 400 roasts and then use technology to match your ideal coffee based on your preferences and brewing method. Just take the coffee quiz to get started. Trade Coffee guarantees you'll love your first bag or they'll replace it for free. It's been featured in places like the New York Times, just like our co-host Federico. Mr. Vitici's been in the New York Times as well, so is Trade Coffee. But they've one-upped you because they've also been in Wired and GQ. And Trade has delivered over 5 million bags of coffee. Their subscription is no hassle. Skip shipments, change your frequency, or cancel at any time. Myke, tell me about your experience with Trade Coffee.
I was too busy Googling at that moment to see if Federico had been in GQ.
Oh, we would know if he had been. He wouldn't.
No, but like I can imagine he could have been quoted somewhere.
Maybe
in GQ, because I was pretty convinced I could find him in Wired.
Yeah.
So like I felt like GQ was the last one.
Yeah, that's possible.
But anyway, I'm a big fan of Trade Coffee. One thing I've not needed to worry about with Trade Coffee is the idea that if you don't like the bag, then you can send it back to them and they'll replace it, because I have loved every coffee that I've gotten from them. It's just been really great. They know exactly what I want from the quiz that I went through, and every bag that we've received has been as good as, if not better than, the one that came before it. So I've been very, very happy with my experience.
For our listeners, right now, Trade Coffee is offering a total of $20 off your first 3 bags when you go to drinktrade.com/connected. So get started and take their quiz at drinktrade.com/connected and start your journey to the perfect cup. Our thanks to Trade for their support of the show and Relay FM. 5 years ago, we got some shocking news that Apple was going to be acquiring Workflow. I remember this very well. I was shocked that it's been 5 years. But Federico, I'd love to talk to you about this news and how you felt at the time and how you think Apple's handled this in the half decade since. I love your worst case, best case sort of approach to your article. So we have this article called "The Future of Workflow" in the show notes, where you outlined sort of what you viewed as the worst outcome. So maybe let's start with that. Like, what were you afraid of, that could have happened when Apple purchased Workflow? Like, what was that worst case scenario in your mind?
Right. So the worst case scenario was sort of following the typical playbook of most startup acquisitions, right? That it was going to be an acqui-hire, so that the Workflow team was going to join Apple, but they would stop working on the Workflow app, and the Workflow app would eventually get discontinued as those folks had been hired by Apple and they started working on other things. And I feel like the concern was justified, because in the acquisition news, a detail that maybe some people do not remember is that Matthew Panzarino, when he broke the news on TechCrunch, he mentioned specifically that the Workflow team was going to be joining the Siri and proactive intelligence teams at Apple. And that seems like, okay, why would you want to work there on those teams? Especially Siri of 5 years ago. I mean, Siri is not great now. Imagine 5 years ago. So there was some skepticism surrounding this acquisition and what would it mean. Also, there was that constant underlying sense of, this entire app has been built on a very risky foundation. It's a house of cards based on a bunch of workarounds and native APIs, but are we sure that Apple really likes what these young kids have been doing? And the answer is that, yeah, they were actually in love with it. And the worst case scenario did not come true. Actually, the absolute best case scenario came true, and perhaps even more than I imagined.
Yeah, you have in your article some things that you hoped to see if Apple took the better path. So things like a better action extension, new privileges, deeper integration. You talk about what you called Workflow Kit, which would
eventually be Siri Kit. But that was, so my assumption was all those things were, and I'm really, patting myself on the back over here. I'm really glad that I made those predictions, because that was exactly what Apple ended up doing. So my idea was Workflow has built this ecosystem of third-party apps that are compatible. I guess it's been 5 years, so maybe we can share these details now. Some of us knew at the time that something was happening, because some of those applications that had Workflow compatibility at the time they were suddenly asked by the workflow team to sign some additional paperwork to grant them permission to use their URL schemes.
Yeah, and I think we thought that they were in legal trouble, or we're getting like someone is trying to sue them or something.
Yes, we thought that we thought that something was going on, and a few months later, the news of this acquisition broke. So obviously, they were getting their affairs in order, right, to prepare to be acquired by Apple. But the idea was, well, they have this third-party ecosystem, but it's all based on URL schemes and X-callback URL stuff. There has to be a better way to do this, right? And this is where Apple, Apple is Apple because they have really smart people working on this stuff that can have a vision to turn an existing product into something that you don't know you need, but that once you see it, you're like, oh yeah, I guess that makes perfect sense. And the idea was, what if we take this idea of having a system that allows apps to exchange data in the background, or things like to create notes, to start directions to a location, to retrieve documents, whatever. What if that actually became part of the framework that we have for Siri? And what if all these shortcuts that you created as the user could also be triggered as a custom phrase in Siri? So that was the idea, to blending together the world of Siri and workflow, then renamed shortcuts, in a way that used the existing foundation. That's where Apple was really smart. They didn't have to create a separate shortcuts kit or whatever. They built on top of Siri Kit, with wildly different results, right? Because in Siri, the voice assistant continues to be largely inefficient, let's say, at dealing with third-party app integrations. But in shortcuts, there are some really, really excellent examples of Siri Kit-based actions from third-party apps that let you do all kinds of stuff, especially because over the years Apple has raised the memory limit for these actions. They have allowed even complex actions to run for longer in the background, and now you can do things like Pixelmator Pro Super ML resolution as a shortcuts action on the Mac. So wildly different outcomes for the same technology, and I find that fascinating. And obviously, the thing that I could not possibly expect at the time was shortcuts for Mac. So Apple just coming right out last year and saying, we believe shortcuts is the future of automation on Apple platforms. Well, okay. So that's a big commitment. That's a big statement. And so honestly, looking back at 5 years ago, all the things that I wanted came true. But obviously, with time and with the relaunch of shortcuts in iOS 12, and all the updates for iPad later, and most recently with Monterey, there are always new things, right? There are always new problems that come up and always new wishes that you come up with. And I feel like it's not all positive, right? There are still some lingering issues, I would say. For example, the fact that shortcuts, almost on an annual basis, has undergone a redesign. In the editor, in the library, and last year, by switching to SwiftUI, they have introduced dozens, hundreds maybe, of bugs and visual glitches on all platforms. Many of them still haven't been fixed. Apple has been very proactive in reaching out to the community, and on each now they have full-on detailed release notes for shortcuts on apple.com, which is incredible. All the individual bug fixes are mentioned in the release notes, so that's great. They're making progress, but I said this last year, and I'm going to say it again, at some point, the annual redesigns need to stop. And so hopefully now that they have SwiftUI, that's done. And more broadly speaking, the other thing I would mention is there's still work to be done in terms of consistency. Shortcuts at the moment is everywhere, but it doesn't behave the same on all platforms. And you have this very different possibilities, whether you use shortcuts on the Mac or you use it on the iPad or use it on the iPhone. It's almost like they were made by separate teams, right? On the Mac, you can fully control multitasking, and you can resize and place windows anywhere. You can run shell scripts, you can run JavaScript, you can run AppleScript. You have system-wide integration with the keyboard, so you can have custom triggers. In Monterey version 12.3, they added this new option to shortcuts for Mac that I found out about a couple of days ago called Provide Output. This is like a hidden toggle in the details screen, in the configuration screen for a shortcut. And if you enable it, you can basically put together shortcuts that automatically replace things in the app that you're using. Like, for example, you're using text edit, you select all the text in a document, the shortcut runs, and if you have provide output enabled, it replaces the selected text in the...
I could make a markdown
convert to rich text stuff.
Thing,
yes,
right?
I've already made one. And it's one action. To do that sort of stuff now, it's one action, because all you do is convert markdown to rich text, one action, you go to the configuration screen, you click on provide output, and that
and I
does
could do
it.
that by keyboard
Apple
shortcut
Notes
too, right?
Yes,
Wow.
you select text, you run the keyboard. So you see this, on the Mac now, you can do these incredible things with shortcuts. And I get it. Maybe on the iPhone, you shouldn't be able to do them. But on the iPad, with the keyboard and a very similar system, why not? So enough with the redesigns, more stability, performance improvements, and I think the next big thing for shortcuts, and maybe we can go into some more specific wishes, but the next big thing needs to be consistency. Make the app behave as much as possible in a similar way on all platforms.
It is a necessity because the shortcuts sync.
Mm-hmm.
You can't keep making them different from each other when they sync cross-platform, because then you end up with a bunch of problems. To the point that they had to introduce detect device for this reason, right? As an action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a symptom. I get it. It's a nice option, but that is also a symptom of a problem, which is you got to have conditions to check the platform you're using. That's not ideal. Imagine if reminders had a submenu that said Mac only, but no, it doesn't have it.
And it's nice. It's nice that they have it, because there are times where you might just want it to be completely different as a shortcut. I like that they embrace things that are Mac-ish, like the menu bar or whatever. That's great. Mm-hmm, but you're right. There are certain things like the way that Safari actions would not work the same, or the way that, as you mentioned, the multitasking actions just not doing the same thing or not working at all. It's this stuff, we can't go like this forever. I mean, it does make me actually we're talking about how much has changed in 5 years and how much farther ahead it is. But there is still this point in the back of my mind, which reminds me of the iPad discussion that we had last week, Federico, of it's been 5 years and there are still these things that have not changed. Mm-hmm. And I at this point don't understand why. Like keyboard shortcut triggering of shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
Especially now Apple has a second global modifier key, right, on the iPad that the Mac doesn't even have, and you still can't do it.
Well, new Macs do, but it's not rolled out completely.
New Macs do, but yeah,
because Command, Option, Control, and Shift were not enough. We needed a fifth one. Mm-hmm. Going to 5 shortcuts.
We're doing 5 blades. But so looking ahead at the next 5 years, maybe, I guess. So performance improvements is the next big thing. You need to really polish this thing now, and consistency, obviously. But I think in the next 5 years, I would say let's keep an eye out for these features. Third-party triggers for automations. I think Apple should expand the list of potential triggers for automations to include specific events from third-party apps. So go beyond schedule, it's 7 p.m. on a Thursday, or go beyond, I'm connected to Wi-Fi. Imagine if things I received a new message in Tweetbot, or in Slack from this person could be a trigger. So third-party triggers as events from apps. That's something that I would love Apple to work on. The provide output option that I just mentioned is part of a bigger thing that I believe Apple should consider, which is more direct control for app UI. And I'm not talking necessarily about like UI scripting, which is notoriously like a very bad thing to do, but I would love to have more options in shortcuts to really control and speed up things that I do inside apps. Like, I don't know, open this document, switch to editing mode, share this document with this specific person, like those kinds of actions that control features and the interface of third-party apps. That's something that I would love to see in shortcuts, especially if more pro apps are coming to iPad and iPhone, 5 years from now.
Is that a Apple thing or a developer thing or both?
Well, I think it needs to be both, especially when I really see this as going in combination with better multitasking actions, especially on iPad, to have fine-grained controls for, let me create a specific workspace in shortcuts, right? Down to the specific window of the same app and to the sizing of the window. Like, I have 3 Safari windows open. I want to pick this specific one and I want to put it on the bottom left corner. And then I want like reassembling an exact replica of a workspace from shortcuts to basically have like a saved workspace, right? That sort of integration, I think it needs to come from Apple. And then, and this is the real sort of big picture stuff, I really feel like there is a potential for shortcuts to be used as a sort of like as this recipe building tool to create, let's call it maybe presets for potential headsets or glasses down the road. Because I imagine like having those kinds of devices on your face, you will want to save as much time as possible while performing common actions. And so I feel like there's a place for shortcuts to be like, you say a phrase and a shortcut presents you, cuts a bunch of steps from whatever you want to do. Like maybe you want to, you're wearing glasses in 2027 or something. And you're like, okay, I'm heading home, but I also want to text my partner and tell him I'm coming home. Like that sort of thing that you can do now with the Apple Watch and the iPhone. But imagine becoming super quick and super invisible.
Because there's even less UI that you can tap. It's harder to do that. Etc.
What if someone made an app for sending fast texts?
How would that be?
It has to have feet. If it doesn't have feet,
what would you call it? Quick. What do you call it? Quick type?
Yeah,
no, that's another thing.
I don't know. Instant message.
Quick
Maybe.
SMS.
Considering we're making fun of Casey again for no reason, I would just like to take a moment to promote Casey's app called Masquerade.
It's very good.
Which is a really lovely app that allows you to add emoji to images with face detection.
It's great.
You got to be nice at least 1 out of 20 times,
Yeah, I mean, I think looking back over the last 5 years, there's so much in your article, Federico, that came true. Like I think it's clear now that Apple bought shortcuts. Maybe not with exactly where we are in mind, but with the vision of this being their complete automation story. I mean, we got that line from them last year at WWDC that shortcuts is the future of automation on the Mac. Automator will be eventually sunsetted, and are bringing in those actions into the Mac, and the Mac version has scripting support and all sorts of wild stuff that I did not expect to see, but I'm so glad it's there. And for me, at least, there are issues and there are bugs and there are silly limitations, especially on iOS and iPadOS. But the vision, I think, is a good one. And I'm encouraged that they seem to be taking it really seriously, because they should, right? Like if pro users need something solid to build their workflows on, maybe shortcuts isn't quite there yet, especially on the Mac, but I think with time it will be. And that's exciting. I'm glad that Apple cares about this, because I think that's important to a lot of their users.
And also to build on what you were saying just then, Stephen, like that they consider it important enough that it is a building block in the things that they continue to push forward to, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the potential of doing the kind of stuff that Federico was talking about, that it's like it's there, and it does feel like that they keep doing that. Like they add new stuff, and then Shortcuts takes advantage of it in a new way, right? Where it's like there's always been this system, the NS activity system or whatever, and then it's like, well, now we build Shortcuts on top of all of that, so it's like really baked into everything.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This episode of Connected is made possible by Theragun. If you sit at a desk all day, you might wonder how to relieve all that tension you get in your body. If you work out regularly, you might wonder the same thing. So whether you're an athlete or just a regular person trying to make it through the day tension-free, Theragun can help. Theragun is a handheld percussive therapy device. It releases your deepest muscle tension with a scientifically calibrated combo of depth, speed, and power, and it's as quiet as an electric toothbrush. The Gen 4 Theragun doesn't just feel good, it gets to the source of the pain by releasing tension. By using Theragun's signature percussive therapy, which goes 60% deeper than vibration alone. It's really cool. The engineering is amazing. So whether you want to treat your muscle tension from working out, an injury, or just the stress of everyday life, there's no substitute for the Theragun Gen 4. The OLED screen and design make it feel like you're holding something futuristic. Go to their site and check it out. There's a link in the show notes. You'll see what I mean. Plus, the Theragun app learns from your behaviors and suggests guided routines. I've got one of these, and it really is amazing. The blend of technology and just the engineering that goes into this, it feels really good in the hand, really well built, and it 100% gets that tension. I've really been impressed. My wife and I both love it.
I feel so relaxed. I have one. I got one for Christmas. Like Adina bought me one, and I adore it. I love my Theragun. Like I use it multiple times a week, and just every single time I finish the whole thing, and I'm like, I feel so much better than before. Like it's great. I love it.
My wife and I actually each bought one for each other at Christmas.
'Cause you're cool like that. Mm-hmm.
It was good. It was one of those real romantic comedy moments. Theragun is trusted by 250 professional sports teams like Real Madrid, along with elite athletes like Paul George, DeAndre Hopkins, and Maria Sharapova, plus hundreds of thousands of customers like you and me. So try Theragun for 30 days, starting at only $199. Go to therabody.com/connected to get your Gen 4 Theragun today. That's therabody.com/connected. Our thanks to Theragun for their support of the show and Relay FM. I need to call a special Connected Congress to order.
What does that mean?
Okay.
So there is a Google Doc link in the show notes I would like you to each open.
I'm opening it.
I spent some time in the mountains, and like a certain someone in the Old Testament, have come down with a new set of rules.
Wow, someone came back with a self-inflated sense of themselves, I think is what they actually came back with.
Oh yeah, like Noah.
Yeah, not Noah.
Bruce Banner. Right?
Like Bruce Banner coming down.
From
Like Darth Vader.
When Darth Vader had to go fight the Power Rangers. Okay, so
Yeah.
this, I need to be really clear about what this is and what this isn't.
Wait, this is a new document for the Rickies.
It is a suggested revision to the Bill of Rickies.
No, this is a new constitution that you're just springing on
I'm
us
merely
like
suggesting it. This is, I'm underlying this, not an attempt to somehow introduce annual chairman powers to affect change.
You know me, man. You knew I was going to say that. I was
No,
just about to
this-
say, here we go. He's done it as
Yeah,
the annual
I
chairman.
know.
He's brought...
This needs to be peer
Well, that's what we're gonna
reviewed.
do.
We cannot just, who are our peers?
We are the peers of him.
No, there needs to be an external committee.
No, there's not. This is how you give them power and they take over.
Ah,
So I know Myke wants this like annual chairmanship to come with power. I don't agree with that. This is not a move in that direction. I've wanted to clean up.
You don't agree with it, but as annual chairman, you've decided you're going to rewrite the entire Bill of Rickies.
As reader of the rules every time, as someone who has to stumble through them.
What a coincidence.
They're too long and too wordy. And so what I've done is simply clean them up in this proposed Bill of Rickies. So my suggestion is that I read these, and then I'll read a section, and then we can talk about it. How does that sound?
Okay. I mean, are you going to tell us how you've changed it? Is that going to be immediately obvious to us?
I have some notes prepared.
Okay.
So the first thing is something that we've been meaning to do for a while, and we just haven't done it, is some sort of preamble to explain what the heck these episodes are.
Yeah, that's been a thing we've wanted to do for a bit, but we've been pushed for time. So
the other kind of meta structural thing I've done is over time, the rules for the Rickies and the Flexies have been both together and apart. I have truly separated them now. They each have their own preamble and their own set of rules. And so I think if someone listens to these episodes, especially if someone's new to the show, welcome.
What a terrible episode to be new to, Myke. Oh my word. Ricky's episodes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. We want to make that a better experience.
As you go through this, if me or Federico have something we want to say, can we jump in or should we wait?
Let me read let me read like the Rickies preamble and we'll talk about that. And then I'll read the Rickies rules and we'll talk about that. How does that sound?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Because I may explain something later, as we go. Okay. So this is my proposed new Rickies preamble.
Okay.
The Rickies is a game connected hosts play before Apple events. It is made up of 3 rounds. Each host makes 2 regular picks, followed by a risky pick.
Okay.
There are 2 types of Rickies, annual Rickies and keynote Rickies. The winner of the annual Rickies is named annual chairman. It retains the rights to the corresponding Twitter account for the full year. This position is awarded every January. The keynote Rickies winner is named the keynote chairman and retains the rights to the corresponding Twitter account until the next keynote is held. After the Rickies, the hosts play a game called the Flexies. These 2 games have separate but related rules. Please stand for the reading of the rules for the Rickies. So that's the preamble.
I have 3 issues.
3 issues?
Yep. I have one that I noticed when I was reading it. The first sentence needs tweaking because we don't always play it before an Apple event. We do have an annual version.
There you go. That was one of mine.
We maybe need a different explanation. So the Rickies is a game connected hosts play something. We need a better sentence there.
Yeah. Multiple times a year.
Before Apple events or at the beginning of a new year.
I'm going to say beginning of a
My next question is event/keynote because just in general, like,
well, it is keynote chairman.
Yep.
So it probably should be before Apple keynotes.
Yeah.
Even though they're technically not that anymore, we're just going to be old school.
That's the language that we choose to use.
The last thing is, like, I know I just have to say it because it just makes more sense to me, and I know everyone's going to disagree with me. Like, the Rickies to me, it's the Rickies are.
Singular game.
But this is the difference between, like, America and the UK.
Yeah. Well.
But I just feel like I need to get this.
Okay.
And I think Federico needs to make the deciding decision. I'm sure he's going to go with you, but...
So I did think about this, and the reason I went singular is because I'm the one reading them. And I think...
No, it makes more sense singular to me as well.
But also, there are 2 different types of Rickies.
Yeah, but it's a game. Like, it's a single game that we play.
Yeah, and the rules are the same between the different types.
Are they? What about the 365 rule? Is that still the same?
Well, we'll get to that. We haven't read the rules yet.
The Rickies is, in my mind, the right way to do it. If you 2 both go with that's fine, but I need to get my, like, protestation out into the world.
And there's nothing saying that you can't say that. I just think the document, it should be singular.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I can say it. It will break in my brain.
Yeah, because we also do Apple is versus Apple are, which is the same thing, kind of.
Well, I don't. I say Apple are.
Apple are sounds... No, it sounds wrong every single time. Apple is.
Apple is not a singular organism. It is made up of a group of people.
It's a company. No, it's a company.
Made up of people.
It's a company. Like, No, it doesn't matter. It's
Well,
a
I'll
single...
tell you, it matters in English.
No.
We wouldn't say apple is. We would always say apple are.
Well, what do you know about language anyway?
I mean, I speak the language that the two of you wish you owned.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Steven?
Yeah.
No, I did, and we're moving on.
He speaks the language that the two of us wish we could.
I'm aware of his feelings. Read the preamble.
Yeah.
Please stand for the reading of the rules of the Rickies. I don't think...
no, this is not an official reading.
Well, I was going to
We're
say,
just
y'all don't have to
tweaking
stand
the
for this
document.
because these aren't the rules yet. Right? This is a suggestion. So here are the rules for the Rickies. Correct regular picks are awarded with 1 point. Everything written down in the prediction document must come true to earn any points, and no partial points may be awarded. Correct risky picks are worth 2 points, but wrong ones will cause a point to be deducted from that host's total. Picks must have been approved as risky by the 2 other hosts before the start of the game. Scoring is done during recording and cannot be modified once an episode is complete. In the event of a tie, dice by PCalc must be used in Relay FM mode to pick a winner. Jason Snell has a lifetime ban on flipping any coins on connected or adjacent podcasts or events.
I like that you've kept this. I'm happy this stayed in. It's very important.
And I needed the adjacent podcast and event so he doesn't like sneak in a live show with a coin. Like running on stage with a coin.
I do feel like it's actually, I will say it's kind of sorry, I'll come back to this.
Yeah, the adjacent podcast is tricky. We can talk about that. The order of picks is set by previous performance. For annual Rickies, the winner of the previous year's game goes first. In the case of Keynote Rickies, the winner of the previous game goes first. In both cases, the loser goes last. For Keynote Rickies, the scoring window starts when the event begins and closes when the picks are scored. Any information in scoring must be publicly verifiable at the time of scoring. And then I have this is boilerplate, but I'll read it now. As a reminder, Steven is the current annual chairman and Federico is the current keynote chairman. A Twitter handle is on the line. Past results can be seen at rickies.co and rickies.net. The former also has a page about how to manage your own scorekeeping at home. So I have been working with our friend Lex at rickies.co. Whether we use it or not, or it's in the rules or not, I still wanted this on the page for people to know how the version of the trophies we have and the Mag Tricky, how to keep those correct. So with images and stuff, I sent him some pictures, so we're working on that.
Okay.
So that's the rules.
All right.
Thoughts?
I have 2.
Okay.
Where is it? Scoring. What is it? No, it's in the top part. Everything written down in the prediction document must come true to earn any points. I think agreed upon is better than written down because technically we write a lot of stuff in to the document that is not counted in the scoring. It is just context. It is flavor, as they say. So I just think like everything agreed upon during the picking process, because we agree now, right? Like I feel like we have naturally come to that where we agree on what the pick is,
and then there's the surrounding context,
and then we give some extra bits. Yeah, and it's not what's written down. It's like we write that stuff in italics, but that can't be in the rules.
Well, maybe we don't need that phrase, and maybe it's just correct regular picks awarded 1 point, no partial points can be awarded.
There's a good reason we need something like this because one of us will try and wriggle out of it at some point, but it's just like...
So what about like... I'm just going to make a new paragraph so we can compare.
There is this idea of it being agreed upon, I think, is the
language used for regular picks must be finalized and agreed upon during recording.
There you go. That's perfect for me.
And no partial points may be awarded. That feel good?
I think that works, yeah.
Okay.
I have a problem with saying Jason can't flip coins on adjacent podcasts. I just don't think we have the jurisdiction to say he can't flip a coin on The Incomparable, for example.
Okay, so...
Maybe Jason doesn't want to, but I think that should be Jason's thing.
So I meant for that to really be like, I don't want Jason like rage flipping on Upgrade because we banned him here, but I guess we can't really say that, so...
We can't stop him from doing that, you know?
Okay, so we'll just say he has a lifetime ban of flipping any coins on Connected.
What if Jason Snell has a lifetime ban on flipping any coins on Connected, semicolon, other coin flips by Jason on adjacent podcasts are frowned upon?
Yeah.
So, semicolon, coin
Or similarly, we judge anybody that allows Jason to flip a coin on their behalf.
Let's see, coins.
I like the frowned upon though.
Yeah,
actually.
coins flipped by Jason on.
And I do agree with the suggestion that Jason is making in the Discord right now. Not about connected, but about for the Rickies. Right? In case we do the Rickies, not on connected. Right?
Like a live Relay FM show.
Yeah, there would be a loophole for Jason.
We're doing some kind of like 10th anniversary show and we're grading some Rickies and he runs on and starts flipping coins left, right, and center.
So his lifetime ban of flipping any coins in relation to the Rickies?
Yeah.
Semicolon,
Even
coins flipped by Jason on other podcasts are allowed but frowned upon.
Love it. What I will say as well, like this is not for the rules, but just as like a thing for us to talk about. Jason never flips coins; he throws them. That's the problem. If he could flip a coin, it would be fine.
What if I do flips in quotes in the rules? Coin flips.
I love it. Yep.
Coin flips by
perfect.
Jason on other podcasts are allowed but are frowned upon.
And every time you say it, you have to do the like, you know,
flips. Flips.
He wishes.
The other thing that I came across that was a little weird, it's just I was reading it, was the last paragraph. Because I didn't read these out loud when I wrote them.
Yeah.
The scoring window starts when the event begins and closes when the picks are scored. Any information used in scoring must be publicly verifiable at the time of scoring. I want to change that last one to like time of recording, I think.
Yeah, recording is perfect.
So not to repeat it.
Yes. Yeah.
So some things I removed. I removed the rule about not being able to reuse picks. That's my suggestion, that we banish that rule. The other thing I got rid of was closing ceremonies because we've never actually done it. And I think that pointing people to
Rickies.co. Come back to the
Rickies.co.
reusing. I think we should still say it as a closing ceremonies. The reason why I reckon we should have it is because it is a future merchandising opportunity. Right? So I think there is benefit to keeping it in the rules. I mean, one day we'll do it.
So what if I say in both cases the loser goes last, winners will be recognized
during the closing ceremonies.
Closing ceremonies.
Perfect.
And if we always keep forgetting it, then it's like a running gag.
I mean, at this point, it is accidentally won. And maybe the winner's just never recognized.
Yeah.
There'll be contested winners. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. Is there an ability to contest a winner if we never recognize the winner because we keep forgetting? What about winners will be celebrated?
No, because scoring is done during recording. Scoring is completed during recording.
I would prefer winners will be celebrated during the closing ceremonies.
Maybe.
I think that might be better than recognized.
Anything else with the Rickies?
Not that part. No, I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah, this all looks good so far.
Well, I'll tell you what. I feel like we've done a lot of legislation today. Let's deal with the flexies next week. How does that sound?
Considering you ambushed us today with this,
I actually
would like some time to sit on this.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we actually haven't settled the 365 reusing picks thing.
Yeah, I need to think about that one, actually, because I think that there is a benefit in...
Because, it did add like a fun mechanic to the,
Because there is the idea of I'll just get it next time, which that doesn't sit well with me. I think we need to come up with some kind of reusing pick.
Yeah, I think Jason had a suggestion of not being able to reuse them the next round. So like...
but how does that count for the annuals? Right, we'll talk about this next week. We'll talk about this next week.
Okay, we will come back to this. I have a little to-do list now at the top of the document. In the meantime, if you want to find links to stuff we spoke about, head on over to our website, relay.fm/connected/390. While you're there, you can leave feedback or follow-up. There's an email link there. Or you can do it on Twitter. You can find Myke on Twitter as IMYKE. Myke, tell people about your new show.
If you are a fan of Formula One racing, which you should be, if you're not, you should watch Drive to Survive on Netflix, and you can make those noises. Like, I don't know who it was that did that. It was Stephen or Federico, but maybe it was just a real Formula One car. I don't know. You can check out, I've got a new show on Relay FM and streaming live on YouTube. It's called The Backmarkers. We're at backmarkers.fm for the audio, backmarkers.live for the video. It's Austin Evans and I, and we stream live after every race of the Formula One season. It's a different thing for me doing a video podcast. Like, it's a video podcast as well as an audio podcast, which has been a fun experience. I reckon people go. I would recommend people check it out if they have any interest in Formula One. We're building this for new fans. That's the whole idea. So please check it out.
You can find Federico on Twitter at Viticci, Viticci, and he is the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. You can find me on Twitter as ISMH and my writing at 512pixels.net. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Squarespace, Hover, Trade Coffee, and Theragun. I also like to thank our members. If you're interested in Connected Pro, which is a longer ad-free version of the show each and every week, you can join there at the relay.fm/connected webpage. There are a couple buttons there right at the top. You can join monthly or annually, get access to Discord, the Relay newsletter, a bunch of membership extras, shows, wallpapers, a lot of good stuff there. Until next time, guys, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.
Bye, y'all.